Hello, everyone. A very good evening to all of you. And today being the 24th of July, and we are starting with our Montessori training. Very glad and happy to connect with all of you from different parts of the country and the world. So today we have with us Mr. Sudev Suchin, the Director of International Montessori Teacher Training Institute. It's a very good opportunity for all you students out there and also the fellow trainees and the teachers who have taken up the IMTTI franchise and heading the centers all by your own. I welcome you all to today's session and please welcome Mr. Sudev Suchan for today's session. Sudev, we are very happy to connect.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yes.
Divya. It was great. Actually, we planned from the last 2 months. We couldn't find time, and but finally we did it. So
Yes.
hope the session will be interactive, and we'll start the session. All the very
Sure,
best.
definitely. Thank you very much, Sudev. Okay, for all you students and teachers and trainees and the fellow training heads, if you're new to IMTTI, I just wanted to quickly give you a brief about what Montessori education is all about and what IMTTI does offer, right? So we very well understood that we provide two different kinds of training. One is your International Institute of Early Childhood Care and Education, wherein we meet the growing demands of our and muting all the participants. So we would be meeting all the demands from different parts of the country, wherein the growing demand for early childhood educators is also taken across. So we have students all over from the states of India. We have students from the Middle East, from North America, Singapore, Indonesia, South Africa. Then from the Middle East, again from Muscat, Oman, Dubai, Australia, and many more places. So this is one part of our organization that we will be working on. And coming down to the courses, what we offer is like, we offer the diploma in Montessori courses, which is very essential to ensure the holistic development of children. So we begin this course only for children who are, say, between 3 to 6 years of age. And this can be done anywhere and it can be learned anywhere. So that's the beauty of Montessori education. So all of you, I think you must be knowing about Dr. Maria Montessori, right? So we all know about Dr. Maria Montessori. We have been hearing a lot about her work. So quickly to work on what is her work, what is her philosophy is something that we need to also be looking forward for. So to break it down to the simpler points, I have not made any PPTs as such. I have a simple board because I still believe that I do better when I write and explain. So I hope that that is okay with all of you rather than having the PPTs and other things. Okay. So we're going to begin with Dr. Maria Montessori. So to have this very smaller information, the period of her birth to her death is from 1870 to 1952. So this is the period, and we're going to be seeing substantially what is the contribution that she has done. So who is she? She's an Italian physician. Okay, so she's an Italian and she's a physician by profession. And later, from being a physician, she becomes an educator. We also see that journey in our theory. Okay, so if you see the entire course module is divided into three parts. The first part is your theory, the second part is your practicals, and the third part is where you work on your workshops and albums and submissions and all of that. So equally, the marks is distributed across all the three parts. So learning about Dr. Maria Montessori's history and her methodologies and philosophies we do get in the first part of it, that is in the theory. Okay, so we have understood that she is an Italian physician. We have also understood that she became an educator. I wouldn't go too much into the history of all of it. And she also was the innovator who developed the Montessori method of education. Now, here there are certain specifications of what this Montessori education is all about. Why is it so famous? What are its emphasizes? What is its learning points? So the first important one that we're going to be working is towards is self-directed learning. Every child here would not be learning with the help of teacher. There is no like traditional ways of teaching. In traditional schools, what we have is like the teacher is standing in front of you, the children are facing all of them, and the teacher speaks. But in Montessori, we have an environment that is there and the children can pick up any materials which has been set in their environment, and they direct themselves in picking the right choices of the materials. So there is a self-directed learning. And the second thing is, like, since I'm working with my interest, I'm working on my hands-on exercises. So we work on hands-on exercises because I'm doing a lot of practical exercises for children. Now, do I also include some kind of a play here, or is it just working? Is the next question, because there is always misconceptions about Montessori method from the other methods. People say that, Montessori makes every time children to only work and work, but do we also integrate with play? Definitely yes. We have a lot of collaborative play here. Now, what kind of play? How do I use these methodologies effectively? How do I bring those manipulators into integration is something that we're going to be seeing in our 10 days or 15 days of program. So what Dr. Montessori did was, like, being a physician, she took up medicine, and she was the first Italian doctor to graduate medicine. And she is the first woman doctor who takes up medical profession. And that is when the educational, she becomes a doctor. And what happens at that particular time in Italy is, like, Italy was totally against women education. So it was for Dr. Montessori. It was not that easy for her to get into the work of practicing her medicine. So she had her own struggles. We're going to see what were her struggles in our chapter 1 when we do a lot of theory. But later, once she graduates medicine, she joins as a surgical assistant, okay, in scholar entrepreneurship. So that is one of the place. So Dr. Montessori joins as a surgical assistant. When she joins as a surgical assistant, she also follows the work of two important Frenchmen. That's Jean Attard and Edward Sequin. Okay, so she works closely with all of them, both of them. Sorry, she works with Jean Attard and Edward Seguin. Now, these are two Frenchmen. Okay. Now, they were working specially with mentally challenged children. Okay, so this is something that this is like a turning point towards Montessori education, because Dr. Maria Montessori gets influenced by these two people, that is Jean Attard and Edward Seguin, in Scholar Entrepreneurship. And having the influences, she starts to observe. What does she observe? Every child who was suffering with certain mental challenges, they were able to work under the guidance of these two people. So that's when Dr. Maria Montessori understood that educating senses was very important than educating the intellect. The more you give for children to touch, the more it helps them to retain their muscular memory. The more the child was visually seeing these objects, the more they could actually grasp the photographic memory of the objects. So she understood whatever that I'm going to be teaching or introducing to these children had an indirect or a direct connection with my senses. So that was a first stepping step towards the Montessori education. And slowly she got involved into teaching and training these children. Now, what happened later was, like, she was asked to take up an examination, and Dr. Maria Montessori also makes sure that these challenged children will also appear for a state exam. When they appear for a state exam, she notices that all these children will pass with above average scores. Why? She had passion towards teaching physics. She was a naturalist. She was a doctor by profession. And at the same time, now slowly she started developing the interest towards educating the children by incorporating the sensorial education part of it. When these children pass out the exam with above average scores, that was considered to be as the first Montessori miracle. Okay, you can all note down the first Montessori miracle is when Dr. Montessori asks the children who were mentally challenged to take up the exam. Looking at this, there were a lot of bells which actually rang in the entire Italy. Okay, so it got notified to the government, and they were very, very eager to know about what this method was, how Dr. Maria Montessori was able to do all of that. From there, the new journey for her started. The government comes to her and they ask her to open up a new school. Okay, they ask her to open up a new school, and Dr. Maria Montessori agrees. And the first school of Montessori is called Casa de Bambini. What is Casa? Casa means home for children. Okay, Casa means home for children. So that's how Dr. Maria Montessori opens up her first school. But again, there's a restriction that she had to educate children who were underprivileged, who did not have any kind of facility. Neither the behavior was introduced to children. Okay, they did not get any kind of an exposure into the regular realities of the outside world. So she picked up those children, and what happened was like she made them to be as a part of that environment. Now, what do I call this environment as? So, what Dr. Maria Montessori did, she had to open up a school, and we know the name of the school is CASA. And in this CASA, Montessori had certain rules, and she was the only one teacher, and there were so many children. But how do we manage all these children by just a single adult? Is there a possibility? That was a challenge for Dr. Maria Montessori. So soon she hit an idea saying that I'm going to have something called as multi-age grouping. I'm going to have something called as multi-age grouping. This is when the younger kids were clubbed with the older children, and older children took the responsibility of being with the younger children. Okay, so this is something which was very important for all of us to understand. The first thing in Montessori, what did we learn? The first one, it was a self-directed learning. From there was a lot of independence to the child. Now we are also working towards something more important called as multi-age grouping. So I can have any number of children ranging from 1 to 30 or 1 to 40 in my Montessori classroom. So this was one thing that Dr. Maria Montessori looked into. Now what happened then? Now the school entire, this challenge was addressed. Now the age criteria was addressed. She did not have any difficulty in managing the children. What was the next challenge for her? How do we introduce these materials to children was the next challenge for her. Now, what did you think that she would do? She moved all the furniture, whatever furniture was like not of child sized, she made them child sized. So every furniture was child sized. So the child could pick up the toys and they could keep it back. Again, here, children were not introduced to order and placement. Then Dr. Maria Montessori felt that order and discipline is very important. Every material needs to be placed in a very orderly fashion. Okay, so order is important. Now, say for example, in case if you have so many toys in your home and you have a child of say 2.5 years, what could be the best storage of all these toys? We give them a big box, we give them a big carton, and we put all the toys into it. But, trust me, your child is interested only in one toy. And if they want that toy, what do you
You
think?
know nicely to bring. I have given eraser. Go there. Go.
Okay, so let me mute all the participants. Okay, so that was music to our ears. Okay, so what we do over here is like we get a lot of toys and we put everything into a box. But don't you think that our child is only interested in that one tiny toy which is somewhere hidden down? What do you think the child is going to do? Back to gallery mode. What do you think our children are going to do?
Borrow everything.
Drop down all the carton to
Pour
search
down
that.
everything and they're
Yes.
interested in that one tiny toy, whatever it was, and then they take it back, don't they? Yes, they do that, isn't it?
Yes.
So this is quite natural. This is quite natural. Why? Because there was no order. There was no order. Now, what if I have created a dedicated shelf for my child and I had orderly placed each and every toy of the child? So, what was it? So, it was visually appealing for me. It was much more welcoming for me. I could see what material I want. I could take it and then I keep it back. So, what here we're going to be working over here is like, since we are working with the very sensitive period of children, we need to educate them in a rightful way. So, order becomes a very, very important topic in our Montessori classes. Every material has to be kept in order, and every skill that you're going to be teaching, it also has to be in order. Now, when the order is developed, don't you think that the child will also concentrate better because there is no clutter? When there is no clutter, when everything is clean, even our mind is very calm. The environment is also very calm. Yes, we agree on that, right? So when we are calm, we would be able to concentrate better and we would be able to initiate. Now, don't you think that I'm respecting the environment? We all agree on that, right? So respect is something which is common in our terms. We respect many things. We respect the teacher. We respect the material. We respect one's space and we respect the child itself. Now, what do I mean by that? When a child enters into the classroom itself, the child finds it very warm because everything is so orderly placed. And when the teacher and the fellow students greet the other one with a very great welcoming message, very happy to see you, please come over, would you like any help? They offer help, right? So these are certain things that we consider in our EPL, which is very essential for me when I'm working with my exercises of practical life. So Dr. Maria Montessori also thought that I need to also give lessons wherein I would be integrating certain mannerisms to children, right? So I need to also make sure that the child not only takes care about the environment by taking care of the material, keeping it in place, getting it back, but I should also make sure the child is graceful, the child greets someone, the child is courteous, we maintain peace in our classroom. There are lots of conflicts in our classes. Ma'am, this boy took the eraser, that girl picked my pencil. There's so many things, and children always win about it. So that means your class peace is getting a little disturbed. So problem solving abilities and conflict management at the younger ages was also essential. So Montessori also thought about that. Not only the respect, but I will also teach them how to be graceful. I will also teach them how to be courteous. Grace and courtesy lessons will also has to be there. But now something else was also challenging for her. Now, since she had so many children in the classes, we had a group of say 1 to 30, sometimes 1 to 40, and many children of different age groups. It was also challenging for her to manage all of them in one space. What do you think the difficulty would be here? A lot of traffic. Children keep moving here and there. A lot of traffic in the class. And already there's so much of independence. Dr. Montessori has said the child can pick anything and everything with restricted freedom. That is there. But still, we had so much of traffic here. To avoid this, she brought order and control. Okay. Now, what was order and control? How do you walk? That means I need to coordinate on the child's movements. So she bought a lot of exercises on controlling the child's movements, like introducing them to handle subtle materials, like, walking in a line, not bumping onto each other while carrying objects from one place to another, to be very careful. So again, here, when we are working on movement exercises, we also make sure that the child is able to move from one place to another place without hurting himself, without hurting others, without damaging the material. So safety was the highest precaution. We are all getting, we're all with me, all with me? Yes. So safety was something that we need to be considering when we are working with our movements. So all these things were a part of our Montessori curriculum. So at the end, what did she do? What did she realize? She was observing and observing and observing. So that means the main parameter for me was Dr. Maria Montessori was an observer. Now, as a teacher, what are you doing? Are you teaching? We are not teaching. Rather, we are directing the child. Okay, so you are directing the child. So, how do you do that? Rather than saying that, so children, I'm going to show you this. If the child picks up any material, you can always ask the question, oh, you picked up a pink tower. Do you want me to show how to construct the pink tower? Do you want me to help in making sure that all the buttons are buttoned in this button frame? oh, you know the name of this particular material, it's called brown stairs, and we use this to introduce the thickness in our classes. So you can start that way. So the choice of choosing a material was given to the child, but the teacher takes over the lesson from there because she directs the child how exactly that you need to be working on. So what was the main thing? As a teachers and trainees, all you students, you need to be an amazing observer. What do I mean by observer? Just not looking like that. You should be eagle-eyed because you are with a class of dinosaurs. I always say that, my toddler class is no less than managing so many dinosaurs at the same time because every child is so different. They're unique, their learning styles are different, and they are so naughty, they're so notorious. Even one single minute, you cannot leave your sight out of the children. So you need to be more vigilant. You need to observe every little thing about how your child is performing in your classes. So as teachers, you will be now directing what lessons to be taken. So what do I say now? So every teacher is now called a director in Montessori because you're directing the lessons. We can also call you as a facilitator. I don't say, we never use you teach, you are a teacher. We say you are a director or you are a facilitator because you facilitate the learning or you direct the learning. Okay, so that becomes one of our overview about Dr. Maria Montessori and what this Montessori method is all about. So far clear, everybody? So what was our inference out of this? What did we take away from this? So when you observed every piece of equipment. This is a very strong line I love in your book. It's given in your book also on your chapter 1. Every piece of equipment, every piece of exercise, every piece of hands-on learning, every piece of how the child was directed in towards learning is nothing but makes up your lesson and how well that you would incorporate. So it was all done, it was all given directly by observing all how these children behaved in the Montessori class, which was called as Casa. Okay, and looking at all these observations, Dr. Maria Montessori later publishes book, and the name of the book was Montessori System, the Scientific Pedagogy for Children's Learning. Okay, so she publishes her first book, and the first book was related to her scientific pedagogy. Okay, one second. Yes, so that was the first book she publishes. Now, she being so famous now, the methodology being so good enough now, sooner her methodology gets a lot of limelight, right? But at the same time, she also had a lot of hardships. Anything new, people will spectate. Yes, anything new, people will spectate. They will always have issues in getting that, being into the limelight and other things. So Dr. Maria Montessori, even though her work was appreciated, she was never encouraged. But then she was also like, she kept on doing a lot of struggles. She published books. She also conducted a lot of teacher training programs because she wanted to spread the joy of learning in Montessori education. So that's when she met a lot of young teachers like you, and she had a direct, training sessions being conducted. So all these things happened, and soon she was invited to different parts of the country, and that's how Montessori education became worldwide famous. Until now, her work is not patented. She doesn't have any trademark. Anybody can use Montessori education, and we are all blessed that you're all doing your Montessori training. To be very frank, do you know about the accreditations of our organization? Has anybody gone through it? About the IMTTI's accreditations? Our recognitions, affiliations, has anybody have gone through? Okay. So if you have not gone through, let me quickly tell you. So all thanks to Mr. Sudev for getting us all these affiliations. So I'm putting again Sudev on spotlight here. So for all the late joiners, he's the director of IMTTI. We're very happy to have you, sir, today. And I'm going to give out our students a big shout out on whatever good work that you have done, and you have bought this recognition and affiliation. To begin with, guys, we have, since it's an Indian country, we are there in India, we have it with BSS. BSS is Bharat Sevak Samaj. We also have it with AICE, that is your All India Council of Education. Next, we have it with IAO. In case if any students are looking for job opportunities outside, IAO is one of the authorized center. So it talks about International Accreditation Organization. We have it with AER, that is All India Association for Education and Research. We have it with ISTD. So in case in India, if at all, if you want to get into any of the training institutes, ISTD is one of the society which actually gives you license. Okay. So that's the Indian Society for Training and Development. ISO is one of the standard because we have to meet up the specifications according to whatever we have as the norms, so that we would be working. Since my state is Karnataka and I'm from Karnataka, I'm very happy that we also have the recognition from the Karnataka state. And the head office of IMTTI is also in Karnataka. So you all have heard about the movie KGF, and it originated from there itself, so you can also remember that. So our head office of IMTTI is in Kolar and very much in KGF. So coming down to the west part of it, so we are also affiliated with PNMA, that is your Pacific Northwest Montessori Association of USA. We are also with IMC, International Montessori Council, that is IMC of USA again. We're also with UMA. So that's United Montessori Association. Okay. So I'm not sure if I've left out anything, Sudev. Have I left out anything? You can just let me know on that. These are the ones which is there in my mind. And yeah. Sudev, you're muted. You're muted. Sudev, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm happy to inform that we are affiliated with Central C University. So from this academic year, we'll be affiliated with Central C University, which is from USA. So all the documentation for the other centers will be given.
Okay. Congratulations on that. Congratulations, team. So I'm going back to the gallery mode. So let's say more power to you, Sudev. Everybody unmute yourself and say more power to you,
Thank
Sudev.
you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sudev. So we're very honored to be under a very beloved and an esteemed organization. So I'm associated with this organization since 2011. So it's been more than 13 years now with the journey of teaching and training. So all thanks to my wonderful trainee students and my mentor, Sudev. Yeah. So yes, let's move back to our this thing. And as I mentioned that it is not patented, it is not trademarked. But can anybody take up the training? It is not possible. Any student can learn this methodology, but if you want to be a trainer, if you want to run this organization, you need to also hold certain qualifications and you need to also hold certain parameters that's going to be working with. Okay. So having said that, that was our introductory part of understanding about Montessori education. I hope I have cleared the step one. So step one, this entire program I've divided into 15 to 20 steps. So step one was understanding about what is Dr. Maria Montessori and what do we learn in this particular session. Okay, so let's quickly move on to the breakup now. So what are the different areas? Now we have learned about this education system. We understood that it is self-directing. Children will have a lot of hands-on exercises. They have a lot of freedom within limits. And we also give respect to our child environment and to the fellow students. We've also learned that we learn through our senses, right? And we also learned that the teacher is going to direct the activities and the environment is so prepared and it is enriched that it is naturally the child will be able to learn everything. But coming down to the subject itself, do I have any subjects in Montessori? To make it very simple, I call it as areas of Montessori. Okay. So how many areas do I have in this Montessori learning in my entire course? I would be dividing it into 5. Is it only me that we are dividing into 5? No, it is universal. Whichever part you are learning this Montessori course, Montessori curriculum is divided into 5 areas of learning, starting with EPL, that is your exercises of practical life. Exercises of practical life. Next, what we learn is related to our sensorial education. This is where we learn about exercises which helps us to learn on our senses. Third, we learn on our language. Fourth, we learn on our mathematical skills. And at the last, cultural is what we're going to be learning. So when I'm doing language, I would be clubbing my cultural science also because it's related to one another. Sometimes the cultural lessons are also being involved with our sensorial lessons also. So we will be able to involve that also. Okay, so together we would be able to have both of those exercises. So we're going to have this. So these are our 5 areas. To start with for today, I'm going to start with the first one, that is EPL. Okay, so EPL is your first practical. For all my students out there, like, the previous students, I had started with language. So now I'm starting with EPL so that, you have it in sequence. So we are starting with EPL, guys. Okay, please note down. There's a lot of writing that we're going to do. Be a little quick. In case if I'm going a little fast, please stop me. So I'm going to ask you questions also. So what's EPL?
Is it possible to
Exercise of
show your
practical life.
Exercise
Yeah.
of practical life.
Exercise of practical life. Yes, somebody was asking something. Is it possible to?
Is it possible to show your board, your writing on the board?
I have pinned it. I've spotlighted it. Just see if you can scroll through. So mine and the board I have spotlighted. If you are not able to, you just have to scroll and pin it. You can pin me and the board. So you'll be able to see both of us. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes. So what is about EPL skills in Montessori?
Practical life skills.
Practical life skills, yes.
Good manners, habits.
Correct.
Preliminary exercise,
Preliminary exercises, very good.
applied application,
Okay, wonderful.
grace and courtesies,
Very good. So I think I'm meeting a
control of
Montessori
movement.
teacher.
Actions, feelings.
I'm already meeting a Montessori teacher. Are you one?
Control of movement.
Are you a Montessori teacher?
Me, ma'am, Lakshmi.
Lakshmi? Yes. So yeah, you are a Montessori teacher. So
Everyday life practice.
yes, very good. So I would be able to get answers. Now, did you see how specific the words were when we talk about EPL skills? We are refined to specific skills of introducing certain skills, right? So, for example, we have to first understand what is practical life. Very simple, okay? I'm going to give you in a very simple terminology. I'm not going to make difficult at all for you. When somebody asks you what is practical skills or what is EPL, so you just have to remember, see, anything that is basic, anything that is useful for me, anything that has a purpose or which is very purposeful. You have to only remember these 3 things.
Yes.
That means my way of living becomes easy for me if I follow these simple things. So what you should do, if you are introducing a skill to a child, the skill should be a basic skill the child should know. For example, I have to dress well when I come to school. So it's a basic skill. Is it very useful? Definitely yes, because I might give a good impression to everybody. Is it purposeful? Definitely yes. So students will be listening to me. So it's a very basic skill. So as teachers, you need to first remember these 3 things. Any skill you take in EPL, it should be very basic, it should be useful, it should have a purpose. So as teachers, what you do, you will break it down. Even if it's a complex skill, you will break it down into smaller parts, make it easier for a child. So that every day-to-day life skill of theirs becomes easy. This is what we're going to be seeing in our practical life. Okay, so how can I put it again? So I can also put it that in a way where these are nothing but exercises or skills which I do daily, which is important for me, for my living. Can I put it in this way? I do it every day. and it is helping me in my day-to-day life. Now, does it have a meaning and purpose? Definitely yes. Why should I do? For example, how many of your children are able to tie the shoelaces on their own?
My son.
Many children are able to do it. Some children are not able to do it, correct? Now, what is the easy go? They don't want to wear a shoe which has lace. They want to go for a shoe which has Velcro. Agree? Yes.
Yes.
Why? Why?
It's easy for them to wear.
It is easy for them. The reason is something else. The child has not gained control. The child does not have control in the coordination of that movement wherein he would be able to lace the shoe. So what is my purpose of my EPL is I have to make sure to help a child to gain control. In what? In coordination of movement. So every movement, even though it is difficult, I need to help the child to work. When I keep helping, when there is so much of repetition in these exercises, I would eventually make a child independent. You all
Yes.
agree on that? Yes, you're with me? Yes. Now what happens? It becomes easy for him to adapt to the society. He is never embarrassed. When he has to wear that shoe and he says like, I cannot, a 14-year or a 15-year, they actually, I see some of the boys and girls, they don't want to do it. They push that lace into it and they don't want to adapt into that particular this thing itself. So I'm not saying it's wrong. It's important because what happens is like they would never be embarrassed at any situation. So therefore it is not important to teach, but rather it is important to facilitate. It is important to guide and tell the children why it is important functionally. Okay, you're able to get it? What am I working over here? So my practical exercises will help me to work on the growth and development of the child. Clear, all of you? So it is for my growth. Now I would be able to again divide my EPL into 5 groups again. I would still be able to group them into 5 groups. The first group is called as the preliminary.
Preliminary.
Yes, so I call this as preliminary. Sorry for the spelling mistakes. Okay, these are my preliminary exercises. Now, what do I do in my preliminary applications or exercises? These
You
are
have
basic.
to develop.
I work on basic movements. Now, what could be my basic movement?
Hands-on activities.
Hands-on activities. What are we all doing right now? We are writing. So those are simple exercises, basic exercises which are useful, which are purposeful, right? So my basic exercises will involve my hand. Okay, it involves my fingers. Now give me the names. What could be my basic exercises which involves my fingers and my hand?
Buttoning.
Carrying,
Writing. So it could be writing,
Drawing.
carrying,
very good.
Painting.
Painting,
Scribbling,
Folding.
coloring,
scribbling,
anything apart
activity
from
with clay,
anything apart from
activity,
academics.
activity with clay, clay activities,
Eating,
activity,
very good. Eating.
activities with the clay activities.
Yes, clay activities, anything which involves my finger muscles. Yes, I can also have activities of pouring. I can have activities of spooning. I can have activities of carrying an object. I can have activities of rolling. I can have activities of folding, folding. Now, don't you think that we use this in our day-to-day life? We eat with a spoon. We pour water from a mug to our glass. We roll our napkins and keep. We carry objects from one place to another. We fold our clothes. See, these are academic part of it, reading, writing, and other thing. But what are the other basic skills that we do in our home to actually work? We carry different things, right? It could be sharp objects, it could be tables, it could be chairs, it could be trays, it could be utensils, it could be mugs. Many things we carry from one place to another, correct? Yes. And do you also work with sharper objects? In our day-to-day life, we also encounter a lot of sharp objects, right? Scissors, knives, cutters, blades, right? So we also have, but we also would be carrying them very carefully. We would also be using them very carefully, right? So there is also a possibility that I need to also look into it. Is it also my basic skill? It is also my preliminary skill which I have to look into it.
Yes.
How many times I open and close a door? Many times, at least like 10 times in a day, we open the door, we close the door, we open and we close. And we have to also educate our children to keep our books safe, right? They need to know how to open a book, how to close a book, how to turn pages. Do you all agree on that?
Yes.
Yes.
And at the same time, when your child is getting ready for school, it is also important that I would also teach them to open water bottle, to close water bottle, to open the lunch box, to close the lunch box. They should be able to do these exercises on their own. Why I'm giving you this is like when a child, much before going to homeschooling, much before going to schooling, if they are homeskilled on these preliminary exercises, the child becomes much more confident, because it's the basic necessity which we see, which we use in all societies, right? Now we have students from different states and different country, but do we still use the same skill everywhere? We're not escaped with any of these skills, right? We would be using it. So it's purposeful, it is useful, it is basic that I need to be giving. So I can put this into my practical life skill. And all of them, they come under preliminary applications. Now, going back to the next one, the second application in the fifth group is my applied application. Yes, there are something called as applied applications. Now, what are my applied applications?
Caring of person, caring of
Very
environment.
good. Yes. So anytime that you start caring about something, now you need to care about what helps you in maintaining something in your day-to-day life. For example, I can care about myself. I care about oneself. Correct? So you also care about your environment. Agree?
Yes.
Care about a person, we care about our environment, correct? So these are very important. So you care for yourself, you care for your environment. That is considered to be as applied application, because when we introduce activities for child to take care, what could be the activities to take care about yourself?
Keeping ourselves safe.
Keeping ourselves safe, very good.
Dressing.
Yes, very good.
Trimming our nails.
Trimming our nails, very good. So you trim your nails, you trim nails, you wash hands. Then keeping yourself safe. Yeah. Then you also learn to dress yourself without anybody's help, right? So we also dress. We polish our shoes. What else? We prepare a snack for ourselves and we eat healthy every day. I'm going to give you one such lesson plan. I'm not going to give you all the lesson plans because you need to follow a similar lesson plan for each one of it. Okay. So let me quickly give you that. Yes, if you have, meanwhile, you can let me know. Meanwhile, if you have any other preliminary exercises, can you show me?
Preliminary exercises we can do sitting, standing.
Sitting, standing, yes. In preliminary, in the previous one, yes. Sit, stand, carry a chair, carry the table manners, right? How do you sit? How do you stand? How to carry object from one place to another? All those things are your basic skills. I agree. I agree on that. Yes. Anything else that we have missed out?
Buckles, lacing.
Those all will come under dressing frame. See, I'm not going detailed into it. I'm giving you one
Making
sample
of the
lesson
hair.
plan.
Greetings, ma'am.
Plating or like making your hair,
Greetings.
getting
Good
ready.
morning, good night.
Yes, yes, yes. See, what they're saying is like when I talk about dressing, when we talk about dressing, there are different kinds of dressing frames available. Now, what is dressing frame? It's a material which we use it in our Montessori. But usually, everybody look at your clothes. I'm putting everybody onto your gallery mode. Just look at your clothes. How many of your clothes have buttons? If you're wearing a shirt, you will have button, right? Again, your buttons are all of different kinds. Yes. So every button, if you see, you have a button and you have a hole, right? So you need to put the button into the hole. That needs a lot of fine motor skill. If the child does not have hand grip, it becomes very difficult for a child to even button and to unbutton. So these are basic skills that you're going to be teaching them to dress themselves. Now, can you tell me how many of your dresses have hooks? If anybody is wearing a sari, definitely your blouse will have a hook. Sometimes your pant will have buckles. Sometimes our shirts and tops might have bows. Sometimes in case if you're braiding your hair, you might have laces, right? Or ribbons. You ribbon and unribbon. There are many things that you're going to be using to dress yourself nicely. So all of that will be covered in your dressing lesson. So you will teach the child how to dress and how to undress, and how to fold, how to unfold, and how to orderly keep all those dresses in a shelf or a rack. That becomes our preliminary exercise of what? It becomes our applied application, wherein I'm taking care of myself, my belongings, not the environment. It is all belonging to me. When I talk about my environment, then I talk about something else, keeping my cupboard clean, dusting my cupboard, sweeping my home, mopping my home, doing a wet dusting, right? All those things are to keep my environment neat and clean, because I might sit down on the floor or I might sit on the furniture. I do not want to catch up germs, right? So these are certain things that we need to be taking care. But when we're taking care of all of that, we also look into certain exercises. See, we need to always engage children by not giving it as a task, but it should be made as a collaborative play. So that is what I said in the beginning also. Do we have play in Montessori? Definitely yes. All those exercises can be made as play. So you will teach the children the techniques of how exactly you're going to be doing. And to support all of that, we definitely have manipulatives. We have materials which helps the children to develop these skills. Let's begin with one such skill. Yes. So I'm going to show you one such skill today. It could be washing hands. Let's take washing hands itself. Give me a moment. Okay, so this is one sample lesson plan. So how you need to be presenting this particular lesson for children. Now this again comes under applied application, right? So what is the first important thing that I need to be working as a teacher? I need to know, why am I doing this exercise? Because I want to teach my children a proper hand washing technique, because I want them to maintain hygiene and I don't want them to get caught with germs. I want to prevent the spreading of germs. So this is my agenda. So I know very well why I do this exercises. Sometimes most of the teachers and students, they don't know why they are doing. Why they are doing, they don't know, because it's given in the book, they have to do it. See, never do that. Never do that. See, Montessori is all about building exercises on what previously your child learned. If your child is learning this, and if you have understood, yes, this child can actually do the next lesson, you immediately go for that. So it's not that when you are ready, you do the exercises. No, it is that when a child is ready, you start building up. When the child is talking and talking and talking, that's when you interact with the child a little bit more and you guide them. So you always have to build up. So as teachers, you should know why we do this exercise. Now we have something called as a hand washing station in Montessori classroom. So this is a ready-made, what do you call, the equipment which is available. You can purchase it from KidCan Montessori or Credo or any other Montessori where, vendors who actually supply. But in case if you don't have this hand washing station, whatever are there placed on it, you need to set it up on your table. So what do I do over here? I need to keep materials which is ready. So that means a prepared environment for me is important. Correct? So I would set up this hand washing station, but I have to make sure that all that objects, what I have it is of the child's height. Now I would demonstrate first what is the steps. So what do we do over here? We can take a little bit of soap. We rub it. We do between the fingers. We do behind the hands. And we also clean our nails. Now, how do I make it as a collaborative play? I'm putting everybody onto my gallery mode. Okay, so we're going to do a simple song. So everybody come back to video. Please turn on your videos. So rub your palms, all of you. So this is how you switch from theory to practicals, practicals to exercises, exercises to learning, and learning to games, and then you start playing. Rub your palms. Children, today we are going to be washing our hands. Divya ma'am is going to show you how to wash our hands. Are we ready? Yes, are we ready? Okay. Now Divya ma'am says, touch the table. Everybody touch your table. Now I say, touch the floor. Go there and touch the floor. Just pretend now we are as if touching the floor. We touch so many surfaces. Now our hands are dirty, right? Our hands are dirty. So what should we do? We need to wash our hands. So how do we do? We take some soap and then we wash. So we can sing a rhyme. Tops and bottoms, tops and bottoms, in between, in between. Rub them, rub them, rub them, scrub them, scrub them, scrub them till they are clean, squeaky clean. Tops and bottoms, tops and bottoms, in between, in between. Rub them, rub them, rub them, rub them, rub them, rub them till they are clean, squeaky clean. Now show me your hands. Do we have clean hands? Yes, we all have clean hands. Come on, take a look at your hands. Take a look at your hands. Lovely. Now I can also put a paint drop and I can ask the children, now look at your hands of very dirty children. So we need to scrub and wash until our hands are very. Thank you so much for participating in this. Okay, so that is something that we need to be working on. So include music because children learn very well with music. So this is one way of introducing your lessons and you set it up, right? So this is your sing along. So I'm going to share this also with you. So it's tops and bottoms in between. Rub them all together till they are clean. You can add more, scrub them in between. Okay, so all is something that you need to do. But how many times? How many seconds? 25 to 30 seconds is what your child should wash. It's not that leaving water, putting this and coming back. I still see many of the children do that, but it has to be for 25 seconds when they are actually washing the hands. So you can always do a little slow washing, a traditional classic song. This is the way we wash our hands, wash our hands, wash our hands. This is the way we wash our hands before we eat any food. So you can make your own tunes and tell the child when we have to be washing our hands. You can also show them a science experiment. This is one of my favorite. So you can take any shallow bowls, which are transparent sometimes. You fill in some water. You sprinkle the pepper. Okay. So when you sprinkle the pepper, now you take a dip of soap. When you take a dip of soap, what happens? What happens? The pepper? Yes. Yes, the pepper would move off. Okay, it's famous called as pepper germ science experiment. So you can show it to children also. Let me see if I have any video. Okay, so you can always do this. Just give me a moment. Yes, that's a science trick. That's a science trick. Let me show you that. Okay, so I can't share two screens. Okay, let me off this. Here I go. So this is one of the, you take a plate, you put some water, you sprinkle pepper on it. Now you take any liquid soap. You take a liquid soap, dip it with your tip of your finger. When you dip it at the tip of your finger and just do this, what happens? Because it has soap, the pepper would go. So that initiates to the child by telling that, when you wash your hands, the germs are gone. So you can do the simple science exercises to always be a little bit more educative and to bring fun in your classes, in your learning experiments. Okay, so that is related with your washing hand exercises. So you would also be working on the same thing. And the purpose, why do we do this? Because we want to make sure that we care for ourselves. We're going to have a sense of cleanliness. And indirectly, you're working with the child being much more responsible, right? And the child has got the ability to work on himself. So we also see that, the hands which were dirty are becoming clean. So until they are not clean, the child keeps doing this process. So you can always begin with 2 to 4 years, and that's something which we can actually look into it. Okay, so this is one such lesson plan that I'm giving. Work with different exercises like that, and we're going to be working. Okay, so that's my second group, which I called it as applied applications, wherein you take care about many things, like from dressing frames and all of that. Okay, now moving to my third part of it. Moving to the third part of it, I'll show you the dressing frames also, so you will be more confident. In Montessori, we have dressing frames. We get different kinds of dressing frames over here. Now, say for example, if I have my buttoning frame, so I can have, what are the different kinds of dressing frames I can have? Our clothes can have buttons. Our clothes can have laces. Our clothes can have hooks. Our clothes can have zip. Then what else? It can have buckles.
Lace.
It can have lace.
Velcro.
It can have ribbon. Yeah, it can have Velcro, or we can also call it as snaps.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can also call that as snaps, right? So again, they come with different sizes and different this thing. Okay, so always when you're presenting, there are certain things that you should always keep in mind. The first thing is like rolling and unrolling a mat. None of the material should be placed on the floor. I forgot to mention you this. It's a very important one. I don't know how I forgot. So it has to be placed on a mat. Again, mat, you have different kinds of mats. One is a sitting mat, one is a working mat. Sitting mat is where the child will sit. Working mat is where the child is going to work. Okay, when the child spreads this mat in a particular space in your environment, that means this space is reserved for work. It's called a space for work. It has respect for that space. That means no other child can disturb this. So that means the other child is also respecting this child's material and the work. This is also a principle of Dr. Maria Montessori's, which says when a child is working, you need to also respect the material and the space. So you should always tell the child to wait for their turn. Now, what do you mean by waiting for the turn? It's not going and sharing here. You will wait until this child keeps back the material on the shelf. Then you go, you pick the material, spread your mat, sit down leisurely, and you start working. So that is called taking turns and working with the materials. So here, what is the first thing that we're going to be working is we're going to unroll and roll a mat, and the mat is all ready. So for example, now if at all, if I have any exercise which talks about my laces, okay, so if at all, if I want to teach anything which is related to my lace or ribbon, this is how I would be able to unbow it. This is bowing. So everything was bowed and kept. Now I am unbowing it one movement at a time. So this is called a dressing frame. So all these dresses and the dressing frames would be there, and you will be initiating one skill per material. This is also one of the characteristics of Montessori, one skill per material. The child will learn only one skill. So this is called dressing frame bow. Now using this, can I do lacing? No, I have to only be teaching how do I bow, how do I unbow. Okay. Now the child is unbowed it. What is the next thing that I have to do? I have to also teach a child how do I bow it back. Now if you see, there are carefully designed movements. The child is never in a hurry. And you will also notice that there are two colors just to avoid confusion, which one to put in, which one not to put in when I'm trying to lace the bow. Okay, so I'm doing a crisscross, one movement at a time. So there is no confusion for a child. The child learns it. Now these are all for 3.5, 4 years. Now when I'm working on my pencil grip, this is also important. So I take it a little higher. I have my pencil grip and I take the red one inside and I put a knot. With the pencil grip, I take it above. Now I put back my red and I pull it. So I get a knot onto it. Now you're understanding why we have different colors, because it helps the child to coordinate between what am I saying, okay? And they would be able to see. As Montessori teachers, you would be talking less. The child is only going to be observing you what we are doing. Okay, so when you're doing, they will watch your hands. When you're talking and doing, they'll watch your face. Which one is better? Let them watch your hands, no? What you are doing, so let them watch that. Now you're taking it around. You teach them the technique of how to take it about. Okay, so this is how you would introduce bowing and unbowing to a child. If it's little difficult for a 3.5, 4 years, you can start with 5 years. Okay, there's no hurry, but teach them the technique. They should know to bow it. Clear, all of you? So that is our simple exercise on button frames. Likewise, you will have different button frames, which each of those button frames, you will be able to teach the skill to your child. So they all come under what? They all come under applied application.
Applied applications.
Very good. Now let's move to the third one. So in third one, we are talking about grace and courtesy. Okay. So we talk about grace and courtesy. So this is my third application. Now in grace and courtesy, I will be working with more children, or I will be working with more people. So anything that is related to interacting from people to people or interacting with people and people, I need to be more graceful. I need to be more courteous, right? So this is something that I am going to be working and introducing the child. What could be my activities on grace and courtesy?
Greeting.
Yes.
Courtesy,
Should be
ma'am.
thankful.
Good morning.
Magic words.
Yes.
Good morning. When
Very
child sneezes. Magic words. Thank you. Welcome. Sorry.
Very
Excuse
good.
me.
Magic words like thank you, please, all of that. Definitely yes.
Excuse me.
Correct.
Sorry.
Pulling out a chair and keeping it back in the order.
Correct. Correct.
Welcome.
Welcome. Yes.
Thank you.
Very
Please,
good.
thank you.
Very good. What else?
Giving respect.
Lovely.
Um,
So you gave me all these points. Now, don't you think that we developed something very important? Manners.
we are developing this child.
Correct. So if I'm putting it in one way, I can say that I am focusing on helping the student develop on manners.
Yes.
Correct. I'm also focusing on social interaction because they are greeting, they are interacting. So I'm also interacting socially with everybody. Correct. And I'm also introducing how to behave. Am I also talking about the behavior of children with one another?
Yes.
Right. So when I'm working on these three things, what does my objective should be? As a teacher, what should my objective be? Respect. The child should be respectful to another child. See, never forget respect. A young child, be it an adult, always respect another individual because they are good in something. The child is good at something. Never discourage a child, never disrespect a child. When you start respecting the child, the other children will also take the responsibility to respect the child, right? So they would also become a good member of that class or that community or okay. So we are always responsible for all of it. Guys, I would request all of you to mute yourself. Yeah, thank you. So this is also important that we would be able to work, right? So always these would be my lessons towards it. So I would be able to work on lessons like, I have to introduce lessons like, what could be my grace and courtesy lessons? We always said, so we start with greetings. We start with greetings. So what do you generally greet? How do you generally greet? You say either good morning or you say hello, right? So how do I greet everybody? So you can just sing along, right? Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
How are you? Hello, Hello, hello. I'm happy to see you. La 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 la. Hello, 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 hello. How are you? I'm happy to see Isha. Sorry, I'm happy to see Leta. And so with Kirtana. Okay, you can rhyme with the names and say you're happy to meet, you're happy to greet, you're happy to say good morning to every student of your class. So never leave out greeting a message to every child because that's something which is important. So it can be verbal greetings, it could be a non-verbal greetings. What is verbal? When you say non-verbal, by nodding your head, by smiling, by giving a handshake, by giving a hug. Greetings can be verbal, non-verbal, but you have to greet one another. Now we all learnt about, everybody said we have to use words like please and thank you. But why didn't we use sorry here? Sorry is little difficult for a child to understand at the beginning. So let's start with please. Can you please come here? Thank you. Can you please keep this over there? Thank you very much. The child becomes much more graceful and courteous over here. Now, what are the graceful exercises? Anything that you do without others pressurizing you. Okay. Now, when I put everybody onto gallery mode for the very first time, and if we are meeting for a long time, after a very long time, what should be your expression? You smile. If you like me, you will smile. If you don't like me, you will be forced to smile at me because you are courteous enough not to hurt me. But you are genuinely liking me, nobody is going to force you anything, but you will smile at me back very spontaneously. So that's coming out of grace. So there's a lot of difference between being graceful and being more courteous. Okay. So you always encourage the children to use polite language. Okay, so when you start using polite language, don't you think that we're also helping the child to express gratitude? Gratitude, they have to be thankful. So children these days are never thankful for or whatever that they have. So as teachers and parents, it becomes our responsibility to introduce gratitude in our classes. So we always have that daily morning drill in our school wherein we say, I'm good, I'm great, I'm happy, I'm thankful, I can do anything and everything, I'm polite, I'm humble, I share, I care. Okay, so you can add on to many affirmations before you begin with your classes because every child needs that. Every child is a blessing and every child needs that blessing from their teacher. They definitely need that somebody who is actually believing them. So when you do that more often, the child will also start expressing gratitude. They will also say, yes, when I can do it, you can also do it. Why? Just try it. Right? So the child will also be more thankful because he helped. So all these things will come only when you're using what? Polite language. Your language should also change here. It's not that we learn everything in books. No. Your language of being polite is also very required. As teachers, please mark it. You can't say, you can't shout, you can't scream. The children will go out of control only. Use polite language. Okay. Now, what about interrupting? Many children interrupt you in your classes. They keep calling you many number of times. Yes. So that is when you introduce excuse me. Okay. So children should use the word excuse me, ma'am. Sorry for interrupting you. Can I ask you something? Excuse me, mama. Sorry to interrupt. Can I get a glass of water? Okay. The child should use excuse me. And they don't understand about taking turns. We should also introduce exercises of taking turns whenever we are working under group activities or conversations. Then we can also use indoor voices. Now, what are indoor voices? Talking softly, not making loud noises. What about walking in the classroom? You need to walk carefully. Even walking becomes, you don't bump into each other, right? So walking also should be done carefully and gracefully. Why? Because we are respecting our environment, we are respecting our fellow student, because we want to avoid accidents in class. Asking for help. When they're having any difficulty, children don't ask help. Okay, asking for help is good. They will get assistance. Whenever they're finding any challenges, they need to ask for help. That's when they would be guided to do this exercise very nicely. Sharing. Sharing is also one of the graceful exercise. They don't share, right? So you introduce how to share classroom materials and how to keep it back into their designated places. Now comes apologizing. Now comes apology. Okay, after so many things. When you make mistakes intentionally, not unintentionally, sometimes intentionally, when you do also, you should be apologetic about that. Unintentionally also, if you hurt someone, you go and apologize immediately. Now that apology has to be very sincere and you respect your personal space, and then you do a cleanup. Correct? So all these things would be somewhere related to our exercises. What is the next one? Table manners, eating. Table manners, very important. So here you ask a child to get a napkin. You ask them to unroll a napkin, then to keep their lunch box, then to keep their water bottle, and use those etiquettes and table manners to actually eat. So these would be some of the simple exercises that we would be working towards helping the child develop grace and courtesy in our Montessori environment. Now, how you do it, I leave it to each one of you. It's very simple, but make sure your child is able to do it. Okay, so when you get your practical books, the practical books is all according to the AMI guidelines, which talks about line to line of how exactly you need to do it. I'll show you a glimpse of our book, how our book would look like. Okay. So give me a moment. So if you receive the books from the center, your book would be related to these. Okay. So it talks about what is practical life. So we have learnt about practical life is nothing but basic, anything that is basic, anything that is useful, anything that is purposeful, right? We learned on that. Next, we understood about why we have to do it. We are not teaching the child, we are not correcting the child, but we are directing the child. And we also saw what are the different exercise groups. We divide that into how many groups? 4 different groups. So that is my preliminary exercises, applied applications, grace and courtesy. And the last one is control of movement. Okay. So when I'm working on all of that, my preliminary exercises are my basic exercises like pouring, folding, and carrying. So we will see list of exercises here. If you see here, in preliminary, we will go detail. So when you do a proper diploma course, diploma in Montessori, we do a little bit more in detail. Okay. Now, since it's an overview session, we just want all of you to understand all these exercises needs to be covered. You start with helping the child to carry a mat. And this one will give you the presentation details of when I carry a mat, I need to have a material. How do I present this exercise? I will have to invite some children. I will have to make sure the children are sitting in a circle or a semicircle. Then I will talk to the children that children, now I'm going to pick up the mat. Then when I'm lifting the mat, children are carefully observing me. I pick that mat from one place to another. I slowly walk and I keep the mat down. And that process is called settling down. Then I would unroll, then I would roll it back, right? So why do I work on all this? See, every exercise in your practical talks about the purpose. There is one direct purpose, one indirect purpose. So direct purpose is I want the child to copy my movements. Indirectly, the child is learning to do all this by himself. Okay, so likewise, you will have different exercises in your EPL, which is divided again into many things. So you will learn on how to carry a mat, how to unroll and roll a mat, how to carry a chair, how to sit and stand from a chair, how to carry a table, how to carry a tray. These are simple, but you have to make sure that you will introduce all these materials to your child. So when it comes down to caring of a person, washing hands is important. Helping the child to dress themselves. Okay, so that is important. Helping the child to polish their shoes. Okay, let me give you this because this is a little trickier one. Let me give you that exercise of how do you polish the shoes. Okay, so when we try to polish the shoe, hold on. Okay. So here is one such example of polishing the shoes. So what is important for me here is like, many of them consider like, I should not be giving polish to the children because it's little, they mess around the polish and the clothes will actually get dirtied and other things. No, but it is important because we are promoting independence to children, and the child will get the responsibility at the younger ages, and even their fine motor skills will also be worked upon it. Okay, so let's see how we work on it. The first important thing for me is like, whenever I introduce polishing shoes, I need to prepare my exercise, right? So I have to keep all the necessary tools, what is required for me, correct? So I keep everything ready, which is going to help me to polish. Maybe I can have a cloth, or I can have a brush and a liquid polish, or it could be a wax polish. I keep up all of that. But I also keep a pair of shoes. And now I have removed from that. So I have chosen what polish I'm going to use and what is the shoe I'm going to use, and I'm keeping a mat so that my floor doesn't get dirty. Now you can show children, you gathered all these demonstrative materials. You also have a shoe polishing kit. You name each item. You say this is brush, these are shoes, this is a liquid polish, this is an oil mat. Okay, so you're going to show them. Now what is the thing that you're going to do? You're going to buff, right? What do we generally do? We buff the polish onto the shoes, right? So we buff onto it until your dirty shoes will become shinier, right? So that is something that we need to be working with children. So can the child master it in one day? It is not possible. They have to do a lot of practice and a lot of repetition, because that process itself will take a lot of time. Now, how do I integrate that into my daily routine? You also encourage parents, so that the child will also do the same activity at home. So you want to integrate that. It's not only at class, the child should also integrate. Ask them to watch how their dad is polishing the shoes. Ask them if the child can help to polish the dad's shoes or the mom's shoes or their brothers or sisters, right? So give a designated specific time during the day when you do it. Do you want to keep polish everything and keep it at the night so that your day is all good? Or before going to your work, you actually do this? You encourage the children however they want, but you have to make sure that the child takes their own responsibility for their shoes. It could be right from removing the shoes, keeping them clean, keeping it in a nice way, keeping it in a presentable way. Okay, so shoes will always represent something related to your own self. People watch your shoes, how clean they are, how tidy they are, right? So they always see that. So always make sure that you integrate this also into your daily thing. Not everybody wears the same kind of shoes, right? So this also you need to extend your lesson. Your lesson should be also like, children, we can't polish all the shoes. For example, if I have a leather shoe, I need to use a different kind of polish. If I'm using canvas, I have to use a different kind of polish. For sneakers, I don't have to polish. I have to only keep them clean. I have to just wipe it with my wet cloth. So you have to introduce an extended lesson so that the child does not get confused and they don't go polish all your shoes and keep them dirty. Okay, so that is also important. So you encourage the children to work on this particular principle. So that includes a lot of exercises, and you can ask them to bring different kinds of shoes. You can have a shoe polishing activity day, and you will see varieties of shoes. And as teachers, you will be able to say what shoes can be polished, what shoes cannot be polished, and how do we polish. Now, the purpose why we do that is because it is fostering me to cultivate a sense of responsibility and taking care of myself. So again, it is like, you are taking pride of you doing the exercises all by yourself. So these would be your lesson plans as teachers, how you would be able to work on it. So for any practical that you're starting with, you need to always make sure what is that exercise, what is the material that I would need to demonstrate this exercise. Now, what is the age that I'm going to be teaching? What is the objective? So what my child learns when I introduce this particular exercise, how do I present this lesson to my child? When I present this to my child, if my child has done some errors, how do I control that error of control? What is my purpose? According to the child's perspective, what will the child learn indirectly? what will the child learn directly? So what is the direct and what is the indirect purpose? Now, these are all should be your points that you have to cover. Apart from that, as a bonus, can I also work on some extended activity? Can I also give some games and exercises? Can I also sing some songs which is related to it? Or what do as an activity that you want to work on it? Now, these should be your extended lessons. So every practical, not only in EPL, for sensorial, for language, for math, for cultural, everything you have to be using all these exercises. Clear, everyone? So that's your fourth part of it. Okay, so grace and courtesy. Coming down to the last one in your Montessori EPL, that is your fourth one. That's called your control of movement. We spoke about in a given class, the child is moving around here and there, correct? It's also very difficult for me to take care about my children. So this is where I would be working on controlling the child's movement in my classroom. So how do I do that? Any suggestions? Any suggestions? How can I control the movement in my class?
Keep child busy, ma'am.
Keep the child busy. Very good.
Raise the voice, ma'am.
Raise the voice, huh? Okay. Raise the voice, okay. But this is related to movement, no? But you want them to move. See, get it right. Control of movement is not restricting the movement. The child will walk. I am
We
not
should give the correct instructions, ma'am.
controlling the movement. Yes?
We should give the correct instructions how to walk.
How to walk. Okay. So you need to give them
Walking on a
right
line.
instructions. Yes. Maybe on the line. Maybe walk in a line. Correct?
Holding something and walk in a line.
Hold something. Okay. You want them to hold something and walk.
we
Okay.
can bring some rules to our class.
Mhm.
We can tell them
Make
that
a queue.
we can play
Walking
a game,
queue.
or we can say them that in this game everything there is glue to this chair. The objective is you cannot move from chair. There is glue fixed to this chair.
No. I am not restricting the movement. So get me right. I want to move in my class. I have to allow the child to move, but I'm controlling the movement of children. I'm not restricting. I'm not telling them don't move. I'm telling them move. But you have to be very careful. You have to be watchful. You have to have a coordinated way of movement. So this is what I'm talking. So to make it very simple, what I have to do, everything is correct. So we have to give them different exercises so they walk very nicely. So what I have to do first thing for this is my preparation. So as a teacher, I need to be very, very prepared. Correct? So when I will have a clutter-free classroom, when everything is organized, we all agree on that. Every child knows where things are kept. The child is able to see. So that means the class is very organized. When it is organized, it is very easily accessible also. Every child can also go and accessible. So what is my first thing? The child is already independent. So as a teacher, it's a good grade for me. I made my child independent. Now, second thing is like, I want to work on their motor skill. Correct? Now, what kind of a motor? Because I want movement in my class. Am I talking about the fine motor or gross motor? I'm
Gross
talking
motor.
about gross motor. Right?
Gross motor.
I want the child to work on the gross motor skills. Correct. So, I can include activities like walk, maybe walk on a line. The child will start walking on a line, walking in.
Walking.
I give something for a child to carry, right?
Yes.
So I ask them to carry something, either carry an object. So each time that the child is given a task, walk on a line, walk crossing the hurdles, carry this particular object and keep it over there. Don't you think that I am refining the gross motor? Don't you
Yes.
think I'm refining the gross motor? The child is becoming more cautious in being very careful,
Yes.
right? So the child is able to get the skill better and better each day. What is the skill that I'm targeting here? Balance and coordination. Now the child is able to balance objects and walk. They're able to have a coordinated walk. That's very important. Correct? So that is there. Now, control of body. Body awareness. They should not be wobbling around when they're walking and all of that, right? The child should have control on their own body. So when I'm doing all of that, indirectly the child is concentrating. The child is able to focus better. The child wants to do that again and again. They want to repeat also. Or if the child is not able to do that, you repeat it. The more they repeat, the more better control on the body, the more concentration, the more focus is all there. Now, since the child is able to work on their daily tasks, don't you think the hand-eye coordination is also better? They know where to walk, they know where to keep it. There's so many advantages of doing these exercises. Okay, so that's related to your control of movement. So you need to make sure you give a lot of exercises on movement, your PE sessions. So if you go to TBPS, Train Brain Preschool YouTube channel or Train Brain Preschool Facebook, you will find a lot of PE sessions which helps you to work and work on the control of movement exercises. That will give you a glimpse. Or if you just Google it also, like control of movement exercises for the gross motor development for toddlers, it will help you. Okay, so why I'm giving you this is, as teachers, you should know to use the technology in a rightful way. You should know to use it. Ask Google. It will give you a lot of options. Read through it, link to it, read your lesson. You get ideas. Talk to your other teacher, plan up your lessons, be very much prepared. Do not forget the principles of Montessori. Incorporate the principles of Montessori. Bring some newness into your activity and introduce that particular lesson. So always make sure your lessons are introduced in a rightful way. Okay, so you should be a learning person. So each day you learn something new. Okay, so that is our first topic for today, and that is our EPL skills. So now it's time for questions. So I will take only 5 minutes for the questions, or you can let me know like what went good, what you learned, what you did not know. How was the session helpful? Now it is time. All of you, please turn on your video. Let me see who are all the participants for today. Yes. Quickly, on a count of 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Very good. Yes. So what was something that you learned new? What was something that you liked?
Ma'am, actually, the EPL class last time when I was listened, I missed some points. So now I have noted them.
Okay, so whatever points that you missed, you note
My
that.
previous-
So that always helps us to understand that each time you will add more points to it, right? So
Yes.
that, yes, Hamsa ma'am. Yes. Yes, Hamsa ma'am. Ma'am, mute. Please unmute who wants to share. You can raise your hand. I can spot them out. So there's a virtual hand. You can raise it.
Came to know about
Hamsa ma'am, please
IMTTI
unmute.
organization.
Hamsa ma'am, please unmute. You're muted. Yes.
Ma'am?
Ma'am,
Yes.
IMTTI organization about.
Kavya, 1 second. I'll come to you. Yes, Hamsa, you were saying something?
types of scribbling I wanted to clarify, ma'am.
Types of scribbling. That is not today's point. Okay, so we will see when we are working on language development, because when I get into scribbling, it'll be so many things. So it's totally out of topic. So I'll not be able to answer that. Yes, Padmini ma'am. Yes.
Whatever I've learned today, it's not only helpful for the kids of Montessori, it helps even the higher grade students, because coordination of movement is a problem even with the higher class students. So I think this is a very good lesson for me as well as a teacher.
See, what happens is like with the higher grades, it's not only you, Padmini ma'am. Many of us, we actually have it. Sometimes what happens, there is something called as level of obedience. The more strict you become, there are a lot of chances of breaking the rules. So you can always use suggestions like making like two children as a line head for a day, leading them, keeping their hands behind so that they do not have. So you can always have those behavioral charts. So whenever I work with the older children, what we always do is we give them the cards. Okay, you can always have an orange card and you can always have a yellow card. At the beginning of the day, you give everybody a yellow card. So yellow card means it's a less behavioral aspect card. And when you have observed something nice about a child, the teacher exchanges with the orange card. And the
Okay.
child carries that home for the next day. Tomorrow you have an orange card. You will still remain in orange. Then I exchange it with a green card. So what happens? The cards that every child has keeps exchanging. So with the older children, when you do this, what happens is like you're not putting a black star. But as in your class behavioral monitoring chart, you say everybody starts with an yellow, but you can upscale your behavior and you get that in your last period only. So each day I notice your behavior is going down. You have to exchange it with me. There's nothing wrong. But every time you do something good and I notice that, you can upscale your cards. Your cards will always be under rotation. So you can look into this, Padmini ma'am. It's going to help you. Okay? Yeah.
Sure, I will. Thank
Rather
you.
than pinpointing, you're doing this, you're doing that, the child will understand I'm standing at yellow. Now I need to get into green. So psychologically it will affect. Okay. So
True,
there's
true.
a different ways you work with the older children. Younger children is a blessing. They listen to you, they learn from you, word to word, line by line, direction by direction. The older teachers
Yes.
will know the actual struggle. Huh?
True.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Any more questions? Yes, I have Padmini ma'am. Yeah. Any more questions? You can raise your virtual hand. That's it. Okay, so let's take a quick photograph of today's screen one. Everybody cheese. Yes, Revati.
Ma'am, actually, I have a small doubt in settling up of the children actually when they are very earlier to the school. Can you please explain on that?
I didn't get you. Settling in the sense what?
No, the age, if it is two, the immediate, if they go to school, they cannot settle. So that becomes a very big problem to the parent as well.
Okay, why is it a problem to the parent?
No, they will not stay in the school. If for the very first day, they cannot stay in the school. And it happens, they cry, cry, cry.
So it should be a problem to the teacher, right? Why is it a
As
problem?
well, parent, because they will not stay at the school. As well, they cannot stay in the. So
Yeah.
this happens for every parent, I feel.
See,
A new parent.
Yes, there's something called as feelings. We always talk about feelings. We always talk about emotions. And we always have seen this with the most anxious parent. When you're more anxious, when you're more worried about sending your child to school, somewhere down the line, it reflects in your child. I don't say it's negative, because when you're over indulging into taking care of your child for a very longer period of time and other things, I know the children are there with you for 2 years, but the settling
Protective environment.
protective environment. So the child has never been introduced. So this is what I keep telling to all the young mothers and fathers, that you need to include something called as your well-being environment, or I could say that. Now, to make it even more as a smoother transition, Revati, what you can always do is like visit the school more often. So the child would have always seen the environment. And you can always take appointment with the class teacher, meet her, take a photograph of her, keep showing it to your child. And maybe even the classroom also you can say. And when you have those beginning years, don't choose for a full day program. You choose for a half an hour program. Choose for a 1 hour program. Even if your child cries, it's okay. Not many children cry. Many of them are happy going to school because the child has learned, seen it. Maybe the siblings are going to school, the child is already excited about going to the school, or maybe the child is going to some other kind of extracurricular exercises where they get along with many children in their community. They are never worried about it. So, if you have not kept up that consistency of introducing your child to somebody else, and that has become a routine, your child might not be okay. That's absolutely okay. That's absolutely okay. So be positive, be calm. Okay. It's all about, how you keep up your positive and attitude for that. And it always helps you to send a favorite toy of your child, or sometimes, a piece of cloth. They get connected to it so that, they have that some object being from home. So you can take special permission from school. So you can always have that. Okay. So you can work on kind of plays. pretend plays you can actually work at home. Like, now mama is going to school, papa is going to work. Now you are there as a mommy. So you swap over the roles. So you put a backpack, go to school, and you can say, Mama will wait here, and I'm going to school, so Mama will not be allowed. So you go and come after 5 minutes. So you can always work on these play kind of exercises, so that helps your child to be a little bit more. See, I always tell to all the young moms and dads is like, every child will adjust at their own pace. Only thing is like, you need to be a little patient, and you need to also trust your class teacher. So never be worried in front of the teacher. Was he crying? Was he crying? No. The same episode should not cry. And when the child is going to school also, don't give them so much of information like today you don't cry. The child will subconsciously take all that information and they will cry. Just forget about what happened at school. Let it be a good day. Let it be a new day. Send them to the school. Okay, and celebrate the smaller achievements. I saw you were very good today. Your teacher told me for 10 minutes you did not cry. That was really good. And she said you also did coloring. So you did what colors? So those are little smaller achievements. You can always do that. I know all of you would be doing it, but still, challenges are challenges. But your class teacher would be the best one to give you tips and suggestions, and you will be the best parent to understand about your child, and you work according to it, because each one has a different parenting style. Each teacher has a different teaching style to incorporate. Okay. Yes. So I will not take much of your time. Okay. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining me. So today we have with us, we have Revati, Priya, Usha. Please wave. We have, I please rename, otherwise I'll not be able to know. Otherwise I have to read you as Redmi. Okay, I have Shafali, I have Shanta, Aparna, Hamsa, Rupam, Palvi, Shweta, then Madhuri, Kirtana, then I have Nalini, Kavya, Padmini. I have 1, 2, 3, Sushma, Lata, Praveen, Sujata. Then I have Shweta, Seema, and Lohita, Priya, Usha, again Redmi, Shefali, Shanta, Hamsa. Yes, Kavya, Sujata, Monica, Seema, Swati, Lakshmi, and Poonam. Okay, so thank you very much, guys. Sujata was also there, and Lata Praveen also. Thank you very much for being a part of this learning journey. So we're going to meet again tomorrow, same time, 4:30. Join me, and we're going to start with another interesting lesson on sensorial education. So sensorial might take at least like 2 days for us to have it in continuation, because it has a lot of materials to be shown, not like EPL. Now EPL is something that now you will be able to work on. If I find some any educative videos and supplies, I would be able to also share the link to Mr. Sudev, and all you teachers, you can actually take it from him. And for students who are associated with me, I'll send it to you all in our WhatsApp group. Okay. So thank you. And if you would like to connect with me, I'm just writing my number. If you have any personal queries, please write down your name and put me a WhatsApp message. So my name is Divya. So that's my number. So I'm your Montessori coach by profession. I'm a teacher trainer, a teacher all by myself, an early childhood educator, a handwriting analyst, a grapho-analytical therapist, and many more to add on. So I'm still on the learning journey. Thank you and have a great evening. Loads of love. Thank you, guys. God bless you.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.